Mora sat alone in her observation room, watching the blue planet spin slowly in the darkness of space. She had studied humans for 12 years. She knew their languages, their customs, and their strange ways. But today, she saw something that made her blood run cold. On her screen, millions of humans lined the streets of a great city. They were screaming, they were throwing garbage, and in the middle of it all, a man in torn clothes was being dragged by chains behind a slow-moving vehicle. This man was their king. King Do-hyun Park, ruler of the United Earth Kingdom, was bleeding. His royal robes were now just dirty rags. His crown was gone. His people, the very people he had ruled for 15 years, were spitting on him as he passed. Mora leaned forward. Her gray hands trembled as she recorded the broadcast. This was impossible. This went against everything she understood about power and leadership. In the Vok Dominion, rulers were sacred. High Lord Ren had ruled for 300 years, and no one had ever questioned him. To touch a ruler was death. To insult a ruler was worse than death. The idea of dragging your own king through the streets like an animal was beyond imagination. She immediately sent the recording to the Dominion homeworld. 3 days later, she stood before the War Council. High Lord Ren sat on his throne of black stone, his ancient eyes watching the recording play on the massive screen. Around him, the greatest military minds of the Dominion watched in silence. When the recording ended, War Commander Tal was the first to speak. He was a tall creature with scars across his face, and he was smiling. "They are destroying themselves," Tal said. "The humans have gone mad. They attack their own leader. This is the moment we have waited for." High Lord Ren raised one hand, and Tal fell silent. "Observer Mora," the High Lord said, his voice like grinding stone. "Explain this behavior." Mora stepped forward. "My lord, it appears the human king committed crimes against his own people. He sold secrets to space pirates. He abandoned 3 colonies to raiders. Thousands of humans died because of his actions. And so they punish him?" Ren asked. "Their own divine ruler? Humans do not see their rulers as divine, my lord. They believe that leaders serve the people, not the other way around." Tao laughed. "Foolish creatures. No wonder they are weak." High Lord Ren was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "A species that turns on its own ruler is a species without unity. Without unity, there is no strength. Commander Tal, prepare the fleet. We will bring order to these animals." Tal's smile grew wider. "With pleasure, my lord." Mora wanted to speak. Something felt wrong about this. But she was just an observer. Her job was to watch, not to question. On Earth, Admiral Yuna Kim stood at her window, watching the same broadcast on a small screen. The streets of New Seoul were finally quiet. King Do-hyun was now in a prison cell, awaiting his trial. Some people thought the public shaming was too much. Admiral Kim was not one of those people. She had lost her younger brother in the colony attacks. He had been a farmer on New Hope Station. When the raiders came, the colony had called for help. King Do-hyun had denied the request. He had already made a secret deal with the pirates. Her brother died while the king counted his money. The door behind her opened. Chancellor Taemin Cho walked in. He was a thin man with tired eyes, but there was iron in his spine. "The people are satisfied," Cho said. "Justice has been seen." "Some think we went too far," Kim replied. "Some are wrong." Cho stood beside her. "For too long, the powerful have escaped punishment. Kings, presidents, generals, they commit crimes and hide behind their titles. Not anymore. Today, every person on Earth saw that no one is above the law, not even the man who wears the crown." Kim nodded slowly. "There will be consequences. Other nations, other species, they will see this as weakness." "Let them," Cho said. "A nation that cannot punish its own criminals is weak. A nation that can punish anyone Even its king is strong. They will learn this lesson, one way or another. Far away, at the Luna military base, Captain Sunwoo Baek watched the broadcast for the third time. He was young, only 28 years old, but he had already served in 2 border conflicts. He understood war. What he saw today was not war. It was something else. Something that made him uncomfortable. The king deserved punishment. Everyone agreed on that. But dragging him through the streets, letting people throw garbage at him, it felt wrong. It felt like something that would come back to hurt them. His communicator beeped. A message from Fleet Command. All officers report to stations. Unknown ships detected at the edge of the solar system. Sunwoo put down the screen and ran to his post. Whatever was coming, he would face it. That was his duty. In her observation room, Mora watched the Vok fleet prepare for war. 400 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to burn a continent. They would jump to the human system within the week. She looked at the blue planet one more time. The humans did not know what was coming. They were too busy fighting among themselves, punishing their own leaders, tearing apart their own unity, or so the Dominion believed. But Mora had watched humans for 12 years. She had seen them do impossible things. She had seen them survive disasters that would have destroyed any other species. And something in her gut told her that the Dominion was making a terrible mistake. She kept this thought to herself. No one would listen anyway. The war was coming, and the humans had no idea. The message came at midnight. Broadcast on every channel, in every language, to every corner of Earth. A gray face appeared on screens around the world. It was War Commander Tal, and he was smiling like a predator who had found easy prey. People of Earth, Tal said. We are the Vok Dominion. We have watched you for many years. We have seen your chaos. We have seen you drag your own king through the dirt like a wounded animal. You are a broken species. You cannot even respect your own leaders. He paused, letting his words sink in. We will bring order to your chaos. We will give you the leadership you clearly cannot provide for yourselves. Our fleet will arrive at your planet in 7 days. You have 2 choices. Bow down and serve us, and some of you will be allowed to live. Resist, and your world will burn. Choose wisely. The broadcast ended. For exactly 3 seconds, there was silence across the planet. Then the world moved. Chancellor Taemin Cho was already awake when the message came. Within 10 minutes, he had called an emergency meeting of the World Council. Leaders from every nation appeared on screens around the Great Chamber. There was no arguing. There was no politics. There was no blame. We are under attack, Cho said simply. What do we do? The answer came from every corner of the room, in different languages but with the same meaning. We fight. Admiral Yoona Kim received full military authority within the hour. No debates. No committees. No delays. The world gave her its trust, and she accepted it without hesitation. She opened a channel to all fleet commanders. This is Admiral Kim. You have all seen the alien message. They think we are weak because we punished our king. They think we are divided because we hold our leaders accountable. They are wrong. She took a breath. Today, we show them what humans do when someone threatens our home. Every ship, every station, every soldier, you know your duty. We fight together, or we die alone. There is no middle ground. Across the solar system, 200 warships began to move. It was not a large fleet. The aliens had 400 ships. But these were human ships, crewed by humans who had something to prove. Captain Sunwoo Baek received his orders at the Luna base. He was being transferred to the flagship, a massive battleship called the Righteous Fury. He would command a destroyer squadron in the coming battle. As he packed his things, his hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger. The aliens had called them broken. They had called them animals. They had looked at humanity punishing a corrupt king and seen weakness. They did not understand anything about humans. When Sun Wu was a child, his grandfather had told him stories about old Earth, about revolutions and uprisings, about common people standing up against tyrants, about the belief that no person was born to kneel before another. "We do not bow," his grandfather had said. "Not to kings, not to gods, not to anyone who thinks they can own us. This is what makes us human." Sun Wu carried those words with him as he boarded the shuttle to the Righteous Fury. In the Vok fleet, observer Mora studied the human response with growing concern. She had expected panic. She had expected chaos. She had expected humans to turn on each other, to blame each other, to fall apart. Instead, she saw unity. Every human nation had put aside its differences within hours. Old enemies were now allies. Political rivals stood shoulder to shoulder. The very people who had thrown garbage at their king were now volunteering for military service. "This is wrong," Mora said to herself. "This should not be happening." She requested a meeting with War Commander Tal. He granted it, but he was clearly annoyed. "What is it, observer?" "I am busy planning our victory. Commander, I am concerned about the human response. They are not behaving as expected." Tal waved his hand dismissively. "They are frightened animals, trying to look brave. It means nothing. With respect, Commander, their communications show no signs of panic. They are organized. They are coordinated. They are unified." Tal laughed. "They dragged their own king through the streets like a dead animal. They have no respect for power. They have no understanding of order. A species like this cannot stand against the Dominion." Mora wanted to argue, but she knew it was pointless. Tal had already made up his mind. To him, humans were just another weak species, waiting to be conquered. On Earth, Minister Hana Li tried one last time to prevent the war. She broadcast a message to the Vok fleet, offering peaceful negotiations. "We do not wish for conflict," she said. "We are willing to talk. We are willing to find a solution that benefits both our peoples. Please, let us speak before blood is shed." The Vok did not respond. The message was repeated every hour for 2 days. Every time, there was only silence. On the third day, King Do-hyun Park made an unexpected request from his prison cell. He wanted to address the people of Earth. Chancellor Cho could have refused. Many of his advisors told him to refuse. The king was a criminal. He had no right to speak, but Cho was a wise man. He understood that humans needed to see something important, so he allowed it. Do-hyun appeared on screens across the world. He was thin and pale. His eyes were hollow, but his voice was steady. "People of Earth," he said, "I am a criminal. I betrayed you. I deserve every punishment I have received and more. But today, I speak not as your former king. I speak as a human being." He paused. "The aliens believe that punishing me made you weak. They believe that holding me accountable destroyed your unity. They are wrong. It made you stronger. It proved that no one in our society is above justice. Not even me." His voice cracked slightly. "I have no right to ask you for anything. But I ask you this. Fight. Not for me. I deserve nothing from you. Fight for each other. Fight for your children. Fight for the right to make your own choices, to build your own future, to kneel before no one." He looked directly into the camera. "Show them what humans are made of." The broadcast ended. Across the solar system, the human fleet continued its preparations. In 7 days, the Vok would arrive. In 7 days, the battle for Earth would begin, and humanity would show the galaxy that a species willing to drag its own king through the streets was the most dangerous enemy the Vok had ever faced. The Vok fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near Neptune. 400 warships, arranged in perfect formation, each one a mountain of metal and weapons. They moved through the darkness like a swarm of hungry predators. War Commander Tal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human fleet in the distance. 200 ships. Less than half his numbers. He almost felt disappointed. This will be too easy, he said to his officers. Signal all ships. Standard attack formation. Crush them quickly. Wealth, Chank, common out. On the other side of the battlefield, Admiral Yuna Kim watched the Vok fleet on her tactical display. Her officers were silent, waiting for her orders. The enemy outnumbered them 2-1. By all logic, they should retreat. Kim had no intention of retreating. All ships, she said into her communicator. Listen carefully. The enemy thinks we are weak. They think that punishing our criminals made us soft. They think that holding our leaders accountable destroyed our unity. She paused. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, we show them that humans do not fight for kings or emperors. We fight for each other. We fight for the person standing beside us. And we never, ever give up. The human fleet began to move. Captain Sun Woo Baek commanded a squadron of 5 destroyers. They were small ships, fast but fragile. Their job was to disrupt enemy formations, to create chaos, to buy time for the larger ships. It was a dangerous mission. Sun Woo knew that some of his ships would not survive. He looked at the faces of his crew. They were scared, but they were ready. Stay together, he told his squadron. Watch each other's backs. If one of us falls, the others keep fighting. That is our way. The battle began. Tal ordered a standard Vok assault. Heavy ships in front, firing massive energy weapons. Smaller ships on the sides, moving to surround the enemy. It was a tactic that had destroyed 100 alien fleets. It had never failed. The human fleet did not break. Kim had positioned her ships in a tight defensive formation around Neptune's defense stations. The stations provided extra firepower. The ships protected each other. When one vessel took damage, another moved to cover it. Tal watched with growing confusion. By now, the humans should be running. They were losing ships. They were taking heavy damage. Any reasonable enemy would retreat and try again later. But the humans did not retreat. They kept fighting. Sun Woo's squadron dove into the Vok formation. It was insane. 5 small destroyers against dozens of heavy cruisers. But that was exactly what made it work. The Vok were not prepared for an enemy that would fly directly into certain death. Sun Woo's ships weaved between the larger vessels, firing at weak points, disabling weapons, causing chaos. 2 of his destroyers were destroyed in the first 10 minutes. The crews did not eject. They stayed at their posts, fighting until the end. Keep moving, Sun Woo shouted. Do not give them a clear shot. On the Vok flagship, Tal was no longer smiling. He had lost 40 ships. The humans had lost 60. But the humans were still fighting. They showed no signs of giving up. This is impossible, he muttered. Why do they not break? Observer Mora watched the battle from her station. She saw human pilots ram their damaged ships into Vok vessels rather than surrender. She saw human crews fight to the last person. She saw a species that refused to accept defeat. They are not fighting for survival, she realized. They are fighting for something else. During the battle, a Vok cruiser was disabled. Its crew surrendered. Mora expected the humans to destroy the ship anyway, to take revenge for their fallen comrades. Instead, a human rescue ship approached. They took the Vok crew aboard. They gave them medical care. They treated them with respect. Later, when the captured officer was released, he reported to Mora. His voice was shaking. They asked if we were hurt. They gave us food and water. They asked about our families. He paused. They do not hate us. They simply refuse to surrender. I have never seen anything like it. The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, the human fleet withdrew to Mars. They had lost 60 ships. The Vok had lost 40. By numbers, the Vok had won. But Tal did not feel like a winner. They should have broken, he said. They should have run. Why did they not run? No one had an answer. Admiral Kim gathered her remaining captains for a briefing. The mood was grim. They had lost good people. But there was also something else in the room. Something that felt like pride. We hurt them, Kim said. They expected us to fall apart. We did not. They expected us to run. We did not. They expected us to be animals. We showed them we are soldiers. She looked at each captain in turn. The next battle will be harder. They will bring more ships. They will not underestimate us again. But now, they know something important. They know that humans do not give up. They know that every ship they destroy will cost them dearly. They know that we fight to the end. On Earth, the names of the fallen were read in every city. Millions of people gathered to listen. There were tears. There was grief. But there was no fear. Chancellor Cho addressed the world. Today, we lost brave souls. They gave their lives so that Earth might survive. They fought not for kings or governments. They fought for you. For me. For all of us. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten. He paused. The enemy thought that punishing our corrupt king made us weak. Today, our soldiers proved them wrong. We are not weak because we hold our leaders accountable. We are strong because of it. We fight for each other, not for crowns. And that is something the enemy will never understand. In her observation room, Mora reviewed the battle footage, again and again. She was looking for weakness. She was looking for the moment when the humans should have broken. She could not find it. They fight for each other, she whispered. Not for their rulers, for each other. It was a simple idea. But it was an idea that could change everything. The first battle was over. But the war had just begun. High Lord Ren was not pleased. He sat on his throne, surrounded by his advisors, listening to War Commander Tal explain why the human war was taking so long. The Dominion had conquered dozens of species. None of them had lasted more than a few weeks. The humans had been fighting for a month. They are stubborn, Tal said. But they cannot hold forever. Their fleet is weakening. Their resources are running low. One more major assault, and Earth will fall. You said the same thing after the first battle, Ren replied. His voice was cold. Tal lowered his head. My lord, I request additional ships, 200 more vessels. With that force, I guarantee victory. Ren considered this. The Dominion had millions of ships. Sending 200 more was nothing. But it was the principle that bothered him. This small, primitive species should not require so much effort. Very well, Ren said. You will have your ships. But this is your last chance, Commander. Do not disappoint me again. Tal bowed. I will not fail, my lord. Observer Mora was not invited to this meeting. She was just an observer, after all. Her opinions did not matter. But she had opinions nonetheless. And they were growing stronger every day. She requested a private audience with High Lord Ren. To her surprise, he granted it. Speak, Ren said. But speak quickly. Mora took a deep breath. My lord, I believe we are misunderstanding the humans. We see them punishing their king, and we think it is weakness. But I believe it is the opposite. Ren raised one eyebrow. Explain. See? In our culture, the ruler is sacred. To remove a ruler is to invite chaos. But humans do not work that way. They remove corrupt leaders to prevent chaos. They cut away the infection to save the body. She paused, choosing her words carefully. When they dragged their king through the streets, they were not destroying their unity, they were strengthening it. They were showing every citizen that no one is above justice. That leaders serve the people, not the other way around. Ren was silent for a long moment. You are saying that their weakness is actually strength? Yes, my lord. And I believe that is why they are so difficult to defeat. They do not fight for their rulers. They fight for each other. You cannot break that kind of loyalty by killing leaders. You cannot destroy that kind of unity by conquest. Ren dismissed her with a wave of his hand. Interesting theory, observer. But theories do not win wars. Ships win wars. And we have more ships. Mora left the throne room with a heavy heart. She had tried. No one would listen. Meanwhile, Captain Sun Wu Baek was on a reconnaissance mission near the Vok fleet. His orders were simple. Gather intelligence and return. Do not engage the enemy. But war is never simple. A Vok patrol found his ship. They were faster. They had more weapons. Sun Wu fought hard, but his ship was disabled. He was captured and brought to the Vok flagship. They threw him in a cell and left him there for 2 days. Then, War Commander Tal came to see him personally. Tal looked at Sun Wu with curiosity. This small, fragile creature had fought against impossible odds. He had destroyed 3 Vok ships before being captured. Tal almost respected him. You are brave, Tal said. For an animal. Sun Wu said nothing. I have a question for you, human. Your people drag your own king through the streets. You humiliate your rulers. You have no respect for power, and yet you fight like demons. Why? Sun Wu looked at Tal. He was tired. He was hungry. He knew he would probably die in this cell. But he still had words left to say. You do not understand us, Sun Wu said. You think we fight for our leaders. We do not. We fight because the person next to us is worth protecting. We fight for our families, our friends, our neighbors. He leaned forward. Your soldiers fight because they fear their commanders. Our soldiers fight because they love their comrades. That is the difference. That is why you will never defeat us. Tal laughed. Pretty words. But words do not stop weapons. No, Sun Wu agreed. But ideas do. Ideas spread. Ideas change minds. You can kill me, Commander. But you cannot kill what I believe. And sooner or later, your own soldiers will start to wonder. Tal's smile faded. Wonder what? They will wonder why they die for lords who sacrifice them freely. They will wonder what it would be like to hold their rulers accountable. Tal stared at him for a long moment. Then he raised his weapon. You are dangerous, Tal said. Not because of your strength, because of your ideas. He fired. Sun Wu Baek died instantly, but Tal's hands were shaking. The human's words echoed in his mind. He tried to forget them. He could not. On Earth, Admiral Kim received news of Sun Wu's death. She did not cry. She had lost too many people to cry anymore. But she felt the weight of it pressing down on her shoulders. She needed help. She needed someone who understood Vok military tactics. There was only one person she could think of. She visited King Do-hyun in his prison cell. He looked worse than before. Thinner, paler, but his eyes were still sharp. Admiral Kim, he said, I assume this is not a social visit. No, she replied. I need your help. You studied Vok warfare when you were commander of the Northern Fleet. I need to know their weaknesses. Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled sadly. You punished me for my crimes. You dragged me through the streets. And now, you come to me for help. Your crimes do not erase your knowledge. Your punishment does not change your duty. He nodded slowly. You are right. I am a criminal. But I am still human. And humans protect each other, even when they have nothing left to give. He told her everything he knew. Fleet formations, command structures, communication weaknesses. It took hours. When it was done, Kim stood to leave. Admiral, Do-hyun said, win this war. Not for me. I deserve nothing. Win it for the people I failed. Win it so that no king will ever betray Earth again. Kim looked at him. For a moment, she almost felt pity. Then she remembered her brother, dead on a colony that the king had abandoned. I will win, she said. But not for you. Never for you. She left. Do-hyun sat alone in his cell, tears running down his face. In the Vok fleet, Sun-woo's words began to spread. Lower caste soldiers whispered to each other. They wondered about the human who had faced death without fear. They wondered about his strange ideas: accountability, justice, fighting for each other instead of for rulers. The seeds of rebellion had been planted. 600 Vok warships surrounded Earth. Admiral Yoona Kim had 150 ships left. Orbital defense platforms added some firepower, but everyone knew the math. The humans were outnumbered 4-1. By every calculation, Earth should fall today. Kim stood on the bridge of the righteous fury, watching the enemy fleet fill her screens. She had not slept in 3 days. She had lost count of how many friends she had buried. But she was still standing. And as long as she was standing, Earth had a chance. All ships, she broadcast. This is Admiral Kim. You know what we face. You know the odds. I will not lie to you and tell you that we will all survive. Many of us will die today. She paused. But before we die, we will make them remember us. We will make them understand that Earth is not a prize to be taken. It is a home to be defended. And homes are defended not by kings or emperors, but by ordinary people who refuse to kneel. Across the fleet, soldiers gripped their weapons tighter. Engineers checked their systems one more time. Pilots said quiet prayers. Chancellor Taemin Cho broadcast to the entire planet. People of Earth, the final battle has begun. Whatever happens today, know this. We did not bow. We did not beg. We stood together as equals, and we fought for each other. That is something they can never take from us. War Commander Tal gave the order to attack. His fleet moved forward like a wave of death. He expected the humans to break quickly. They were tired. They were outgunned. They had nothing left. But Admiral Kim had one advantage that Tal did not understand. She had King Do-hyun's knowledge. She knew that Vok commanders relied heavily on their flagships for coordination. She knew that their communication systems had specific weaknesses. She knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum confusion. The human fleet did not try to fight head-on. Instead, they split into small groups, diving through the Vok formation, targeting communication relays and command ships. It was chaos. It was madness. But it was working. Tal screamed orders at his captains. But his orders were not reaching them. Human ships had destroyed 3 major communication nodes in the first 10 minutes. His perfect formation was falling apart. How do they know? Tal demanded. How do they know our weaknesses? No one had an answer. On Earth, civilian ships launched into space. Cargo ships, mining vessels, personal yachts. Hundreds of unarmed ships, crewed by volunteers who knew they would probably die. They flew directly at Vok warships, crashing into weapon systems, blocking firing lines, buying precious seconds for the military fleet. It was suicide. They did it anyway. Observer Mora watched the battle from her station on a rear vessel. She saw the civilian ships ramming enemy warships. She saw human soldiers ejecting from destroyed ships and continuing to fire with hand weapons. She saw a species that simply refused to accept defeat. This is wrong, she whispered. We should not be here. We should not be doing this. She made a decision. She broadcast a message to all Vok ships on a low-security channel. This is Observer Mora. I have studied humans for 12 years. We were wrong about them. They are not weak. They are not animals. They punish their corrupt leaders not because they lack respect for power, but because they have too much respect for justice. She took a breath. Ask yourselves, why do we die for lords who sacrifice us freely? Why do we serve rulers who see us as nothing? The humans have a different way. They fight for each other. Ask yourselves, perhaps we should learn from them. She was arrested within minutes. But her message had been heard. On the Vok battlecruiser Endless Glory, a lower caste officer named Ven stood at his station. He had heard Mora's message. He had heard stories about the human captain who had died, speaking of accountability and justice. He looked at his commander, a high-caste noble who had sent thousands of soldiers to their deaths without a second thought. "No more," Ven whispered. He raised his weapon and shot his commander. Other crew members stared at him in shock. Then, slowly, they began to nod. They had been thinking the same thing. They had just been too afraid to act. The endless glory stopped firing on human ships. It turned its weapons on the Vok vessel beside it. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. On 3 more ships, lower caste crews rose against their commanders. The whispers that started with Sun Wu Baek had become a roar. Tal saw his fleet tearing itself apart. Ships were firing on each other. Commanders were being killed by their own soldiers. The perfect Vok military machine was crumbling from within. "What is happening?" Tal screamed. "This is impossible." His bridge crew looked at each other. Then they looked at him. "You are not above us," one of them said quietly. "Not anymore." They killed him where he stood. High Lord Ren, watching from the Dominion homeworld, saw his invasion force collapse. Ships were surrendering to humans. Ships were fleeing into deep space. Ships were fighting each other. In 1 hour, the greatest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled was destroyed. Not by human weapons, but by human ideas. Admiral Kim ordered her ships to cease fire. The battle was over. "To all Vok vessels," she broadcast. "Surrender, and you will be treated fairly. We are not your enemies. Tyranny is your enemy. And tyranny has lost today." Dozens of ships surrendered. Their crews were taken aboard human vessels, given food and water, treated with respect. Just like after the first battle. Just like always, Minister Hana Lee addressed the galaxy. Her message was broadcast to every known species, every inhabited world. Today, humanity survived. But we did not survive alone. Soldiers from the Vok Dominion chose to stand with us, not against us. They chose justice over obedience. They chose each other over their rulers. She paused. "Some of you watched us drag our king through the streets and thought we were weak. You were wrong. We punish our leaders when they betray us because no one is above justice. No one is above the people they serve. This is not weakness. This is our greatest strength." On Earth, celebrations erupted. People hugged strangers. They cried. They laughed. They could not believe they were still alive. In his prison cell, King Do-hyun heard the news. Earth had survived. His tactics had helped win the battle. Some people were saying he should be released. Chancellor Cho visited him personally. "The people want you freed," Cho said. Do-hyun shook his head. "I committed crimes. Thousands died because of me. A pardon would make their deaths meaningless. You helped save Earth. I did my duty. Finally. But duty does not erase guilt. If we release criminals because they are useful, we become exactly what the aliens thought we were. I stay here. That is my choice. That is what makes us strong." Cho looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "You finally understand what it means to be human." He left. Do-hyun sat alone, at peace for the first time in years. 1 month later, a statue was built on Luna. It did not show any king or general. It showed 3 ordinary soldiers, standing back to back, protecting each other. The inscription read, "They fought not for crowns, but for each other." Observer Mora, now a refugee living on Earth, visited the statue often. She would stand there for hours, thinking about everything that had happened. One day, a human journalist asked her a question. "When you first saw us drag our king through the streets, what did you think?" Mora smiled sadly. "I thought you were broken. I thought you were destroying yourselves. I did not understand. And now? Now I understand. You were not breaking yourselves. You were freeing yourselves. And that is something my people are only beginning to learn." She looked up at the statue. "You taught us that leaders serve the people, not the other way around. You taught us that no one is above justice. You taught us that true strength comes from fighting for each other, not for rulers." The journalist asked one final question. What do you think will happen to the Vok Dominion? Mora was quiet for a long moment. Revolution, she said. Your ideas are spreading. Your way of thinking is spreading. You did not just win a war. You started something that will change the galaxy forever. She walked away, leaving the journalist alone with the statue. And somewhere in the darkness of space, in the heart of the Vok Dominion, lower caste soldiers whispered to each other about humans, about accountability, about justice, about a better way. The war was over, but the revolution had just begun.